Good morning, everyone. Before we start, I ask that everybody please silence their cell phones.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for being here this morning. I'm Marco Holland, the proud principal of Marietta High School. It is my distinct honor and privilege to welcome you to our annual Veterans Day program. We're excited about having you. I wanted to give you a brief history lesson, if I could, for just a few moments as we kick off our program. In 1962, a gentleman, famous American songwriter, created a rendition of God Bless America. His name is Lee Greenwood. In his writing, in his rendition, he said, "I'm proud to be an American where at least I know I'm free. I will not, or I won't forget the men who died who gave that right to me." In that song, he collaborated with the U.S. Air Force Band to create that, and that epitomizes why we're here today. Never to forget the men who died who gave that right to us. I'm proud to be an American. God bless the USA. Welcome.
I ask that the audience please rise and remain standing for the presentation of the colors, singing of our national anthem, and the posting of the colors.
Stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight. For the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave for the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Now, while everyone is standing, I ask that you please share a moment with me of silence for those veterans who are no longer with us but have served to keep us free. Now, please welcome to the stage the Marietta High School Chamber Choir, directed by Mr. Gravestad, singing We Honor You. You may take your seats.
Good morning. I'm Cadet Lieutenant Colonel Jennifer Vasquez, the Vice Group Commander for GA 20021. As the Vice Group Commander, I take pride on being on the stage to honor our veterans today. Over the course of the last 17 years, I have learned about the nobility and bravery displayed by our veterans, and this poem will explain why. When America had an urgent need, these brave ones raised a hand. No hesitation held them back. They were proud to take a stand. They left their friends and family. They gave up a normal life. To serve their country and their God, they plowed into the strife. They fought for freedom and for peace on strange and foreign shores. Some lost new friends, some lost their lives in long and brutal wars. Other veterans answered a call to support the ones who fought. Their country had requirements for the essential skills they brought. We salute every one of them, the noble and the brave, the ones still with us here today, and those who rest in a grave. So here's to our country's heroes. They are cut above the rest. Let's give the honor that is due to our country's very best. Thank you.
Raise your right hand and repeat after me. I state your name. Do solemnly swear. To support and defend. The Constitution of the United States. Against all enemies. Foreign and domestic. And to bear true faith. And allegiance to the same. That I will obey. The orders of. The President of the United States. And the orders of. Those officers appointed over me according to regulations and the Uniform Code of Military Justice. So help me God.
We celebrate Veterans Day on the anniversary of the armistice that ended World War I. The armistice that began on the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month. The timing of this holiday is quite deliberate in terms of historical fact. But somehow it always seems quite fitting to me that this day comes deep in autumn when the colors are muted and the days seem to invite contemplation. It is, in a way, an odd thing to honor those who died in defense of our country, in defense of us, in wars far away. The imagination plays a trick. We see these soldiers in our mind as old and wise, but most of them were boys when they died, and they gave up two lives, the one they were living and the one they would have lived. When they died, they gave up their chance to be husbands and fathers and grandfathers. They gave up their chance to be revered old men. They gave up everything for our country, for us. And all we can do is remember. I will not fail thee, nor forsake thee. In memory of those who gave the last full measure of devotion, may our efforts to achieve lasting peace gain strength. Let us make a vow to our dead. Let us show them by our actions that we understand what they died for. Strengthened by their courage, heartened by their value, and borne by their memory, let us continue to stand for the ideals for which they lived and died.
In the long history of the world, only a few generations have been granted the role of defending freedom in its hour of maximum danger. I do not shrink from this responsibility. I welcome it. I do not believe that any of us would exchange places with any other people or any other generation. The energy, the faith, the devotion which we bring to this endeavor will light our country and all who serve it. We shall pay any price, bear any burden, meet any hardship, support any friend, oppose any foe to assure the survival and the success of liberty.
What a powerful video. Good morning. Let me begin with a hearty welcome to all our veterans. I also want to extend a warm welcome to the former superintendent, Dr. Emily Lembeck, and our special honoree, Mr. Harry Lembeck, and of course, our principal, Mr. Holland. Thank you for ensuring the legacy of this event endures. To our Marietta High School administrators, to civic leaders, visitors, and parents, welcome. General bankers, what a surprise it was to see you this morning. Great to have you. To our talented faculty, and I wanted to extend a special welcome to our students to this incredible Veterans Day celebration. We are delighted that you're with us both in person or by video link. And isn't it great that Marietta High School has an annual tradition of formally celebrating Veterans Day? I'm honored to be part of it. Some of you may ask, what is Veterans Day about? Let me say with clarity, Veterans Day is dedicated to honoring, celebrating, and thanking our nation's veterans. Today, we do just that. We honor, celebrate, and thank them for their selflessness to answer the call of duty, for their personal sacrifices and those of their families, for their defense of our nation's vital interests, and above all, for their vigilance and willingness to fight and die for our freedoms and to preserve the American way of life. For those of you who wonder how the tradition began, it can be traced back to the events and aftermath of the conflict known as the War to End All Wars, World War I. As the words of our 40th President, Ronald Reagan, still echo in our ears, he reminds us that on the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month of 1918, hostilities abruptly ended with an armistice. World War I drove a huge increase in the number of American service members under arms. On April 6, 1917, when the United States entered World War I, our nation had a standing army of only 127,000 men. By 1919, November 1919, just 19 months later, 4 million had served in the U.S. Army. Accordingly, November 11th itself became a hallowed day in America. In 1919, 1 year later, President Wilson proclaimed the first Armistice Day, which in 1926 became a permanent legal holiday. And in 1954, the U.S. Congress, at the urging of veterans organizations, changed the name to Veterans Day to honor military veterans who served in World War II and the Korean War as well. Today, we continue the tradition to honor, celebrate, and thank our veterans of all wars on this day. In a moment, we will begin a sacred military tradition of presenting a folded American flag to a deserving United States military veteran, a veteran of the Vietnam War. Air Force Junior ROTC Unit GA20021 of Marietta High School will present the folded American flag to Mr. Harry Lembeck. So let me tell you about Mr. Lembeck. His family has a tradition of military service, with a father, a World War II vet who landed in Normandy. He graduated from Ohio State in 1964 with a degree in political science, and then again he graduated from Ohio State from their law school in 1967. He then entered Marine Corps Officer Candidate School in 1967, and then promptly deployed to Okinawa with the 9th Marine Amphibious Brigade and fought in Vietnam with the famous 3rd Battalion, 26th Marine Regiment out of places like Quang Tri and Da Nang. He was awarded the Combat Action Ribbon for ground combat engagements conducted between September 1968 and June 1969. Ladies and gentlemen, let me assure you, Mr. Lembeck may be one of the most humble veterans I know. He insisted that I refrain from calling him a hero. Yet during the 1960s and 1970s, many young men refused to support the war effort, and service members were often the target of public scorn. And they returned home, as they returned home from deployments, they did not receive the proper recognition and gratitude enjoyed by returning veterans from other foreign wars. Accordingly, how fitting that we honor, thank, and celebrate the former Captain Harry Lembeck as we present him with this ceremonial folded flag. So, sir, please accept this flag on behalf of all veterans, given with the greatest measure of respect and adorations. Cadets, you may proceed.
For more than 200 years, the American flag has been the symbol of our nation's unity, as well as a source of pride and inspiration for millions of citizens. Born on June 14, 1777, the Second Continental Congress determined that the flag of the United States be 13 stripes, alternating between 7 red and 6 white, and that the Union be 13 stars. White in a blue field, representing a new constellation. Between 1777 and 1960, the shape and design of the flag evolved into the flag presented before you today. The 13 horizontal stripes represent the original 13 colonies, while the stars represent the 50 states of the Union. The colors of the flag are symbolic as well. Red symbolizes hardiness and valor. White signifies purity and innocence. And blue represents vigilance, perseverance, and justice. Traditionally a symbol of liberty, the American flag has carried the message of freedom and inspired Americans both at home and abroad. In 1814, Francis Scott Key was so moved at seeing the Stars and Stripes waving after the British shelling of Baltimore's Fort McHenry that he wrote the words to the Star-Spangled Banner. In 1892, the flag inspired Francis Bellamy to write the Pledge of Allegiance, our most famous flag salute and patriotic oath. In July 1969, the American flag was flown in space when Neil Armstrong planted it on the surface of the moon. Today, our flag flies on constellations of Air Force satellites that circle our globe, and on the fin flash of our aircraft in harm's way in every corner of the world. Indeed, it flies in the heart of every airman who serves our great nation. The sun never sets on our U.S. Air Force, nor on the flag we so proudly cherish. Since 1776, no generation of Americans has been spared the responsibility of defending freedom. Today's airmen remain committed to preserving the freedom that others won for us for generations to come. By displaying the flag and giving it a distinctive fold, we show respect to the flag and express our gratitude to those individuals who fought and continue to fight for freedom at home and abroad. Since the dawn of the 20th century, airmen have proudly flown the flag in every major conflict on lands and skies around the world. It is their responsibility, our responsibility, to continue to protect and preserve the rights, privileges, and freedoms that we as Americans enjoy today. The United States flag represents who we are. It stands for the freedom we all share and the pride and patriotism we feel for our country. We cherish its legacy as a beacon of hope to one and all. Long may it wave.
If tomorrow all the things I've worked all my life have gone, and I had to start again with just my children and my wife, I thank my lucky stars to be living here today, 'cause the flag stands for freedom and they can't take that away. To be an American, where at least I know I'm free, and I won't forget the men who died, who gave that right to me, and I gotta stand up next to you and defend her still today, 'cause there ain't no doubt I love this land. God rest the USA. Minnesota to the hills of Tennessee, across the plains of Texas, from sea to shining sea, from Detroit down to Houston and New York to LA. Well, there's pride in every American heart, and it's time we stand and say, to be an American, where at least I know I'm free, and I won't forget the men who died, who gave that right to me, and I gotta stand up next to you and defend her still today, 'cause there ain't no doubt I love this land. God bless. today. 'Cause there ain't no doubt I love this land. God bless the USA.
Today, we are very pleased to have with us a number of very special guests. These are our veterans who have served our country in the United States military. We would like to recognize each of these veterans with a brief introduction at this time. When your name is called, please stand at your seat and remain standing until all the names are called, and then we can give you a big warm HS welcome that you deserve.
From the United States Army, E4, Joe Whitley, 2 years of active duty service.
From the United States Army, E5, Emmett Jimerson, 6 years of active duty service.
From the United States Army, Sergeant First Class Opentia Guis, 23 years of active duty service.
From the United States Army, Sergeant Cameron Wilson, 3 years of active duty service.
From the United States Army, Specialist George Garcia, 3 years of active duty service.
From the United States Air Force, Chief Master Sergeant Michael Crockett, 33 years of active duty service.
From the United States Air Force, Staff Sergeant Frederick Malika, 5 years of active duty service.
From the United States Air Force, Major General James Bankers, 38 years of active duty service.
From the United States Air Force, Senior Airman Ricky Price, 4 years of active duty service.
From the United States Coast Guard, Hospital Corpsman, 3rd Class, Mark Drummond, 4 years of active duty service.
If we have any veterans in our audience today that we were unaware of your attendance or we missed calling your name, please stand and be recognized at this time. Thank you. You may be seated. Sabers, post.
It is now time to recognize those veterans who walk and work among us. Those veterans who spend each day providing the same commitment and work habits they provided our country are now providing the same commitment to all of us here at Marietta High School.
Now, our very own MHS veterans will be escorted to the front by an AFJ ROTC cadet.
From the United States Marine Corps, Staff Sergeant Leon R. Grant III, 9 years of active duty service.
From the United States Air Force, Airman First Class Sanjanique Long, 2 years of active duty service.
From the United States Air Force, Senior Airman Alicia Sexton, 4 years of active duty service.
From the United States Air Force, Lieutenant Colonel James T. Wilson, 23 years of active duty service.
From the United States Army, Specialist DeMarcos Holland, 6 years of active duty service.
From the United States Air Force, Master Sergeant Nicholas Smith, 22 years of active duty service.
From the United States Air Force, Chief Master Sergeant Jose Alfaro, 30 years of active duty service.
From the United States Air Force, Colonel Brett Clark, 32 years of active duty service. Please join me in a round of applause for our very own MHS veterans.
Veterans, this is your day. We will never forget. You are the reason this nation is known as the land of the free and the home of the brave. Now, as our program draws to a close, we invite veterans and your families to join us immediately following the event in the lobby of the Performing Arts Center for a snack and a short meet and greet. Ladies and gentlemen, we now conclude with the playing of a medley of our armed services songs. Please stand and join me with one final round of applause for our veterans.
All right, thank you, everybody. I ask that all ROTC cadets please stay seated until everyone is dismissed. Veterans, you can exit out this way to go eat the food, and then seniors exit out that way. Everyone is dismissed. Thank you.
I think I got this.